Hello guys, and welcome to yet another session at the Gosu Academy. Today we'll be doing a Q&A session. I believe this is the third one we've done here. And we've got some lovely people in the Academy who hopefully have some questions they want to have answered. I will do my best to cover anything from big to small. And yeah, this is one of the biggest reasons, I think, to join the Academy. These Q&A sessions from time to time where if you have questions you would like to ask someone like myself who is very experienced and a former pro player, this is probably one of the easiest places where you can get answers to those kind of questions. And if you want to join the academy and ask your own questions in the future, you can do so by clicking the link down in the description. It will ask for your card details, and you kind of have 1 month free trial because even after putting in your card details, if you want your money back, you can always get your money back. This money back guarantee. So there really isn't a whole lot of risk. There are many different coaches as well. There are many different sessions throughout the week, and I do one per week. So yeah, that's one of the advantages by joining the academy is you are able to ask and interact in the session as well as being a part of the session. But we already have one question, so I'd like to have you repeat it real quick if you don't mind.
Yeah, so what is the difference between a pug play and a pro play?
Yeah. So this is a good question, and that's why I asked you to save it. So basically, I will go like super in detail with a lot of these questions because I want to make sure that people who are like higher level will understand it, and I want to make sure that people who are not as high level will understand it. So, PUG is short for pickup game, and it's basically just a abbreviation that is used to explain anything that is not a team game. So a pickup game would be something like queuing into matchmaking where you are solo and you're going to be put into a team and it's just a little bit of randomness. Could be a face it, could be a whatever, but it is like not a team game. And so what will work in a pug is different a lot of the time from what will work in a team setting. So, in a pug, for example, it's possible that if the CT throws this very common Molotov down the slope, that me as a T, I will take the risk of running through it and only taking a little bit and just taking the straight up fight on this guy to try and get a kill, while my teammates are like in mid and B. This is something that, if you look at the bigger picture, isn't really that good of a play, but it still is something that could work. And it is also a pug play is typically also something that is more unlikely to happen. It's more surprising, and that's kind of the biggest signifiers. The reason why there is kind of a difference between like a pro play and a pug play is that most of the professional players in majority of the rounds are playing the high percentage play. So this is where I draw parallels to chess, because in Counter Strike a lot of the time the best play is the play that not necessarily has the best chance of getting you a kill, but it's the best chance of winning the round at a later time. So, or in if you look really far ahead, it's what gives you the biggest chance to win the match, basically. And because of this, inherently professional players will typically go with plays that make a lot of sense tactically. Maybe they've been pre-planned. Maybe they make sense because, like example, running through the Molotov here would be somewhat good if I have a teammate who is ready to smoke the Molotov and come with me, or if I have a teammate from the back here who is doing a flash over or something like this. By just doing these small extra things, we are making a pug play into more like a pro play or like a team play thing. And the difference there is just that when you are sitting on stage, you're playing a really big match, people tend to do fewer big risks. Most of what they're doing is going to make sense, and that's why players like Simple and Donk and these kind of players are known as people who play, professional matches as if it was a pug, basically, because they are very willing to risk and very willing to take fights, and that is, yeah, something that is a pug play. I'll give you another example. So let's say I'm here from the back and I'm smoking. Or actually, I think they changed the shadows a little bit on this, but anyway, can still land it. Maybe now that my teammates are fighting mid, I just want to take a risk and I'm walking and crouching through the smoke and trying to see if I can get a duel on the B player. And let's say I catch him off guard, bench, and I kill him. This is something where, I mean, contacting through a smoke is something you will very rarely see done by pros, especially if they don't have teammates around them. But it's something you could see in a Faceit or a matchmaking game where people are more willing to take big risks. So that's what I would define as a pog play. It's a very risky play that honestly isn't that likely to work, but if it works, you know, it gives a big benefit. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. So
Perfect. Yeah?
I understood now. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. Anyone else got a question?
I think I have some questions that I
Yeah,
write it
that's
down. So,
great. That's
uh,
great.
like I was watching a Monesi stream like days ago,
Mm-hmm.
and he was playing on Stewie 2K account,
Yeah,
and I think Cooper asked him about how do you kill this guy, guys, and he's saying like I just speak with confidence. Like how is how is he always so confident in his aim and his play style, and he knows always how to do like sometimes like I have 2.6k hours in CS,
yeah,
but sometimes my heart is beating fast, I'm sweating, I don't know what to do, and I'm losing the round because I'm just anxious about it.
yeah.
And I'm
Um,
thinking,
yeah.
what if one day I'm gonna play on stage and this is going to happen also? So
Mm.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's a really good question. So, I mean, one thing I can just straight up tell you is that Modesty is obviously one of the best players in the world.
Yeah,
And when
yeah,
you are
it is.
that good and you every day, you know, play against other players that are professionals or very good players, you will build up a lot of confidence if you keep doing well. The same way that if you keep doing poorly, you're gonna lose a lot of confidence. And I think, um, you know, let me see if I have a good example. If I have a good example of a really aggressive player who later became quite passive. Um, yeah, I don't know if there's really a super good example, but it could be even actually maybe someone like Kenny S would actually be a pretty good example in this case.
Yeah, yeah,
Obviously, one of the greatest AWPers of all time, and you know when he was peaking, he was definitely the world's best player in those moments. And he had many really good years. And at some point, I believe it was around Corona time, like 2020, uh, his stats just fell off a cliff, and it started showing in his playstyle as well. Like it is sometimes the case that when professional players are playing extremely well, they have almost infinite confidence, or they are overconfident, but in a good way. But one of the hardest things in sports is when you are a really good player and your form dips all of a sudden to get back up to the top, basically. And so I think it's really difficult to compare yourself to someone like Monacy or someone like Dunk or like Kenny S or whatever, because when these players are peaking, and when these players are like, I'm talking peaking in terms of like their performance is, you know, at the
yeah,
top for them. Um, they have so much confidence because they know they are maybe a top 3 or number 1 in the world, and they know that it's possible they will hit a crazy shot that will save them in a situation that many other players wouldn't. Um, so I think it just is something you build up. Like I've had matches where I've been really unconfident, and I've had matches where I feel like I haven't been able to do anything wrong, and I could just do whatever I wanted. Um, some days you will just naturally be more confident. Some days maybe you will have a good start and you will feel really confident. Some days you will have a really bad start. You will feel like nothing is working. But what is worth knowing as well is that these kind of thoughts are also in the heads of the best players. So there will be matches where Modesty has a bad start to the game, and he will be sitting there beating himself up and saying, "Why am I not hitting this shot?" Or he will be afraid to peak and stuff like this. Everyone has these matches, and like I think one of the best things you can learn when you are trying to become pro or really good at a game or a sport is that the people you are idolizing and looking up to, they are just people. They are not superhuman or perfect in any way. They will also have bad games. They will also have times where they doubt themselves, and it is just part of the game. But if you play really well over a long period of time, there will just be less doubt because no reason to doubt what is working, basically.
I see. I see. Yeah, I do remember like many of them. Like Simple, he failed many times. Like he was in liquid and failing. It
Yeah,
was that 2016, 2017. I can't remember really, but I do remember an interview with him about him being sad that he lost or something.
yeah,
So, and we know Simple is the greatest CS:GO player, and
yeah.
so confidence is built after you like understand what you can do and practicing.
Yes, that is a very good way to put it. Um, and then it's also like confidence is tied to form. Like
Yeah,
even in football and stuff like that, there has been times where you know someone like Messi or Ronaldo has gone 7, 10 games without scoring a goal, and naturally that will hurt their confidence. Like they are good, so they know that they will score eventually, but still in those matches they will feel like nothing is working for them. They will have times of self doubt. So it's yeah, it's something that affects everyone, and it is normal. And I think also something like when you mention like the heartbeat and stuff like that, that you get shaky and nervous and stuff like this is also super normal. Everyone goes through this. I've had that plenty of times on station, even at home, and even in Faceit sometimes. And I have it even sometimes that if I don't stream for like 3 weeks, the first time I come back to streaming, I'm actually shaky because it's like a different environment than what I'm used to. And so uh, the reason why players with a lot of experience typically are better under pressure is because they have been through those emotions before. And
many
uh,
times.
yeah, exactly. And
Like
it's
it's just something normal to them.
yeah, exactly. They understand it's part of the game, and they have pushed themselves to get as good as they can while being under pressure and having the feelings of pressure and nerves and doubt and stuff like that. It's a lot of the times in my life as well, I go through something, and I even for example now I came back from vacation. Basically, I started coaching my team again, and I am there thinking like, oh my god, now a new season is starting. How are we ever going to become like super good with this team? Because we will have to talk about this and that, and also this. I mean, to add this strat. I mean, and it becomes such a huge thing. But most of the times, if you want to get good at something, it's just taking it day by day. Like it, if you want to learn everything or be perfect under pressure the first day, well, that's probably not gonna happen. But if you just improve by let's say 1% every day, you will become better really fast. Um,
You see.
so yeah, that's I would say my answer to that question. Any other questions, guys?
Yeah, I might be having one, but I'm not sure if he, like in the past, you answered something like that, but basically how to be like more adaptable to every situation. I mean, in generally, we are not counting the map. We just count ourselves as a player, how we can be as flexible as possible.
Yeah, that's also a good question. Um, yeah, sorry, I'm thinking. That's why, because it's like it's a very good question in the sense that um, it's an important question to know the answer to, but at the same time, it's I want to make sure also I give it a proper answer. So I want to actually say first of all that a lot of players that are extremely good with talking pros and stuff like that are actually not super flexible. Like there are some of the best AWP players, for example. Someone like Syrson is famous for basically only playing the AWP, and there are different top players who are like pretty much good at just one thing. Like let me see if I can find an example. Like I would even say, well, I think there's a lot of AWP players, for example, who never become riflers because it just doesn't fit their playstyle, and when they try, they fail. Even someone like Nico, for example, he's actually a really good example for this kind of flexibility question. He has tried to be the IGL, and it has definitely had mixed results. I am not convinced that Nico is a good IGL. I understand, he won. What was it very recently? Was it Dallas or something like this? I am Dallas with
Yes.
Stewie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Dallas.
and like here he was IGL, right? But I believe that Nico is good at what's called mix calling, which is where you it's more like momentum based, and it's more like okay, let's go 3 mid and be too ready to pop here and blah blah blah. Obviously, I haven't played with Nico as a caller. I don't know this just from my outside perspective, but whenever I see his teams when he's IGL, they're typically very good at the beginning, but they struggle to find consistency in the long term with him as IGL. And we're talking about one of the most gifted Counter-Strike players of all time, like probably a top 5 most gifted Counter-Strike player of all time, at least top 5 most gifted CS:GO player of all time, if you ask me, for sure. Maybe top 3. And this guy is like not really able to make his teams win when he's IGL. Same way, he also had a time where he played AWP, and that was also not a success. We've seen plenty of other rifle players pick up the AWP, like Rez in an IP picked up the AWP for a short while. We had a time where Magis was IGL of Astralis that actually went pretty good. I think also he's a fairly flexible player, but there are also like AWPers that have turned to rifle. I'm one of them. I was the first many years of my career, I was strictly an AWP, and then I became a rifle player later. And then I became something in between, kind of where some teams I was playing AWP, some teams I was playing rifle. But what I'm saying with all this, the reason I'm talking about this so long, is that there are plenty of the best players in the world that are actually not that flexible outside their role. But they are extremely good at their specific role. And I think one of the biggest mistakes I made in my career was trying to adapt, basically. Like as soon as I changed away from the AWP role in Heroic, my career basically only went one way, and that was down. And I think it was because when you go from playing AWP to playing a like entry fragger / support rifle, where your goal is to die a lot, it feels so unnatural to go back as an AWP player and play super selfishly, which is kind of how it is. So flexibility is good, but a lot of the time within your own role. We've also seen plenty of players. Even someone like Electronic, also one of the best CS:GO players of all time, became IGL, and he was, even from Blade, his coach touted as the next big thing, or he was going to be better than Boomish and stuff like that as IGL, and it just didn't happen for him. Now he's back to playing rifle, and I think flexibility is good, but you should maybe try to keep it within your own role. So if you recognize that your skill set is great to be an anchor, for example, and I'll list a couple of things here to figure out if you are like an anchor. Is typically someone who is good under pressure, because typically you don't have that much time to think when you are an anchor. Like if you're playing B Mirage, for example, when they actually come B, there are gonna be flashes raining in, Molotovs and whatever. People are gonna rush out and stuff like that. So being calm as an anchor is really good. You also need to understand that like you probably won't be the star of the team. So there is an aspect where you need to be able to find confidence in your role without like finding confidence in your role without having good stats basically. And being an anchor is also, having a good feeling for when to play aggressive and when to play passive, because I've had some matches I've played as an anchor where I've been playing like just info jumping on B basically the whole match, and the T's never went to my area. And this is probably something where I should have, pushed, or I should have asked for a teammate to push with me and stuff like this. And this I was not doing. So anyway, this is just an example. If you think that your skill set fits to be an anchor more than anything else, I would advise you to focus on being an anchor. But this flexibility, you can also find it within your role. Like, as I'm saying, like some anchors are really static in their playstyle. They will just be passive the whole time. They are kind of waiting for something to happen to them, and then they are really good at blocking when that does happen. Some anchors are super aggressive. Like, I'll give you an example. I don't actually know where Flamesy is playing right now in Vitality, but he used to be an A player in OG, and he was playing A very untraditionally. Like, he was playing a lot of the times close ramp. He would be getting check flashes from his teammates, and I've seen him play ramp on Nuke, where he also like he wants to fight all the time and stuff like this. It's very untraditional for an anchor. Um, and then there are the best anchor players, which are somewhere in between, where they're capable of playing passive and aggressive, and it depends on the read in the rounds. I would say someone like Shush is a player who can do definitely both. I think Perfecto is someone who is good at playing fast but also playing slow, and this is where I think you can find your flexibility. I know there are some players as well, like Config, I think is a good example. He's a player who I would even say found a lot of flexibility in his role, in the way that he's actually an incredible short player, but sometimes he would be playing B anchor as well. And when he would be playing B anchor, then he would have an AWP, and he would be playing with AWP up on balcony and shutting down B. This is, finding flexibility, but still within your role. And I think that's honestly for the better, because most of the players that I've listed that are really good, even if you think about, I mean, actually Simple is someone obviously who went from being a rifler to being an AWPer and then became basically the GOAT of CSGO. But Saiwu was always an AWPer. Modesty was always an AWPer. You had players even, sorry, I'm rambling a little bit, but you had players even coming up with Monacy, like Hetrick. He almost, I mean, I think it was clear to me at least, and I think for most people, that there would be no replacing Monacy. But Hetrick did have a extremely good statistical performance after Monacy left as the AWP. But I still think Hetrick is a rifle player, and I think even if you look at today, now he played AWP in NIP, and now he's playing AWP in B8, but I don't think this is the best role for him. And so I feel like it's easy for me to come up with examples of players who switched roles and failed than coming up with someone like Chris J, who, that guy could play everything. He played rotation, he played AWP, he played anchor, he played IGL. He literally covered all roles, and he was successful at a professional level in all the roles. But yeah, there is this saying like, jack of all trades, master of none. And I think about this sometimes when I think about my own career. I was definitely a jack of all trades as well. I was a little bit of a Chris J type, just a worse one. And, I don't think it gave me that much benefit that I was able to be flexible, because what I gained in flexibility, I lost in being masterful in one role. What I did gain from it though is that I was basically one of the top guys for people to get as a stand-in on their professional teams, because it didn't matter if they needed a rifle or an AWP or like I. This is kind of, well, this is not public knowledge. Part of it is, but obviously for Mouse Sports in 2019, where we won CS Summit, I was playing as AWP, as stand-in. Then Complexity asked me in 2020, and I was standing in for O, so I was playing like, let's call it even hard anchor roles. Then Complexity in 2021 asked me to replace Config, and I was playing rotation roles. And then Complexity actually asked me again in 2021 or 2022. This is the part that's not public information, and they actually asked me to play as AWP. I think it was 2022. But yeah, this didn't happen. That's why it's not public knowledge, because they asked me to play a tournament where I had played the open qualifier, so I was banned from playing for their team, and instead they decided to play with Elo. So if anyone's interested in figuring out which tournament it is, you can check Complexity Elo. You will find the tournament. They did actually ask me first, but so after this, even Heroic had me as a stand-in under contract, like a stand-in contract, in case they needed me. But yeah, besides being known as maybe the most flexible stand-in of all time, I yeah. I kind of feel in a way I lost my career from that. So sorry, an extremely long answer, and I didn't really answer your question how to be more flexible. To just touch on that real quick is like, I would say just think an awful lot about Counter-Strike. It's possible to be an AWP. I will mention some names. I would say Poison, Mertz, let me see what other examples. I would even say to some extent Syrson. I would say maybe even, I'm not sure. Maybe I would even say Elu as well. These are just the first guys that came to mind, but these are examples of AWP players where for sure their biggest strengths were their ability to just kill people. But what they gained in killing people, they probably lost in ability to understand supporting a teammate with flashes or these kind of things. And so this is part of being flexible in your own role. Think a lot about the game. If you are having a match where you feel like you didn't have as much impact as you could have, it's probably worth thinking about, okay, could I have impact in some other way than just kills? That's always the way I've approached it. If I'm having a game where I'm getting 5 kills and we've played 20 rounds, maybe instead of focusing so much on how do I get kills, instead I start focusing on how can I make sure that my teammates get more kills, or how can I make sure that my teammates play better. And yeah, I believe this is also one of the biggest reasons why I was a good stand-in. Is in any team I played in, I've basically always made my teammates around me better. Where there are some players, they make the team better by them being good. But yeah, that's part of flexibility. So yeah, a really awfully long question, but I hope you can use the answer for something. Sorry, yeah, a long answer. But I hope you can use the answer for something.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. Any other questions, guys?
Well, my question is like on the same topic. How do you stop doing that? Because I was going to ask, like, I can play like any spot. I can be a lurk, I can be an IGL, I can be a rifle, I can be an upper, but
Yeah.
this is making me to have my stats like really, really bad. Like for already a year, I start doing IGLing, but not because I want to. I'm just doing it. How can I explain this? Like it's something instinctive, I can say,
Yeah.
just to take that IGL role because I'm playing solo queue
Yeah.
and I'm trying to like manage all of my teammates and telling them like what to do or not to do. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but I'm trying my best. And I don't think this role it's like fitting me
Yeah.
because back in the day I used to have like a more aggressive play style. I was dropping some kills, but I was kind of losing because I wasn't thinking about the game. I was just going like go and kill.
Yeah.
Like uh, like how can I be fixed in one thing? Like I know the only thing that I know is just that you have to know a little bit of all because you never know when something can change.
Yeah. That's true. I think the best thing you can do is just ask yourself the question: what do you enjoy doing the most of the roles?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Damn.
it's not an easy
Yeah.
question to answer because it's like if you look at any one of the top players today, I want to bet that um, like the reason to get really good at something is most of the time driven by passion. Especially with where Counter Strike is right now, it's not as lucrative as football, for example. Like, I don't believe that there are people who work their whole life to become a Counter Strike pro because they think they're gonna get rich and famous, and that's the only drive. Um, Anyone who is a top player today in Counter Strike, they got there because they love the game, and most likely they enjoy playing the roles that they're playing. Um, I think a lot of players who don't make it to the top. It is potentially because they play roles that they don't like playing, and if you're having fun with what you're doing, you will likely want to do it more, and so you will improve faster. So what I'm saying is basically take a look at your skill set. What do you think you fit in the best? Like, also take a look at your personality. Like, I've had a million talks with Blame If, for example, who has told me that I'm not selfish enough in my play to be the star, for example. And he didn't say that as if like I had to change my role, but more as in like uh, he thought I needed to become more selfish. But I know when I was younger, I was definitely selfish and sort of egotistical on the server, enough so that I would always be the star of the team. Um, and I think if you would look at the this is an exercise I think is quite fun in Counter Strike, and I think no one's really talking about. And I also don't know if it's actually for me. I mean, it's basically a theory, but I feel like it makes a lot of sense. For this, maybe I will want to actually go to HLTV real quick. I will swap the. I will swap the this one as well. You guys can see what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
So if we go through the team page, I feel a lot of the time you can look at the players, or you can, if you've watched interviews stuff like this, you can know what role they are playing. I think actually Navi is not that good of an example, but if you take a look at G2 for example, like I and maybe I'm biased, but I feel like someone like Nico, he absolutely has, not only the skill set of being a star, he has the personality of being a star as well.
Yeah.
And if you look at someone like Hunter, I think his personality is a little bit more, uh, let's call it passive in nature. Like
Yeah.
he isn't
Yeah.
the, yeah, exactly. He doesn't want to be like. I think he
That's a
doesn't feel like he even needs to be like a celebrity or he wants to be or something like that. He just likes playing Counter Strike, if that makes sense.
yeah. I see. You can see it on his face.
Yeah, and I
Like
think someone like Monacy, I mean, it's a really small thing, but even just the fact that like the way he's smiling and the way Malps is smiling and the way Snacks is smiling, you can
yeah.
tell this
He's
guy
yeah.
is a little
He's
cocky,
he's yeah. Yeah.
And I think like, uh, you know, a lot of the times the way you play inside Counter Strike is pretty reflective of your personality. Like Spinks, for example, he is like a super calm guy from what I know him of, and he is a super calm guy on the server. Like he communicates calmly, he aims calmly. He is like, in my opinion, like Mr. Perfect in terms of Counter Strike. Like he has very little error in his aim. Someone like Flamesy instead, I mean, he seems like the type of guy with pretty high energy when he's on broadcast. Sometimes he joins the casters or is doing interviews and stuff like that. And his playstyle is like, his sensitivity is crazy high, one of the highest in the pro Counter-Strike. But he's also extremely active, like what I talked about when he is an A anchor on Raj or a ramp player on Nuke. He is taking the fights to the opponents because, I mean, that's just what feels right to him, you know?
Yeah.
And Missy as well. I mean, he seems to be a pretty solid anchor because he's also like a super calm guy. Apex, very vocal. It makes sense for him to be, you know, a leader.
Yeah.
And Saiwu is like a very calm guy outside of the game, but a pretty balanced personality as well. And he has a super balanced game. If you take someone like Simple, he is really energetic. He is really loud. He is really like controversial in a way. And if you look at his playstyle as well,
Yeah.
that's what it reflects. So I think a lot of the times you can look at teams, and if you see like their like how they look, for example, it's I don't know. I just have a feeling that it's
on their faces how they gonna play.
yeah, and I don't know. It might just be bias, but even if you take a team like FaZe, like Brokey as well. I mean, he is not a super aggressive player, but he is also super calm when you hear him in interviews, right? Same with Robs, always super calm guy, and there's also a guy you know him for like crisp headshots. I think Frozen is a pretty balanced guy, but also I think if you look at Kerrigan, I mean, I don't know, he just looks smart. Maybe
Yep.
it's just bias in a way, and the same with um, yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know. It might just be biased, but it's just a weird thought anyway. Like,
No, it's true because I had my first LAN like months ago, and I could say who is the IGL, who is the upper, who is the support. Like you can read it on their faces who's playing what.
yeah,
It's their personality.
yeah, I think so. Really, I think so. And it's sometimes you need to like also, yeah, as you said, know the personality, right? But I think that's what you should be asking yourself instead of asking like, oh, how can I stop changing roles or how can I find the perfect role and stuff like that. You should think about like what kind of person are you? If you are someone who wants to be the best player on the team, then you should obviously be the star. And then you need to be playing like whatever short and connector or orb, probably, because those are star roles on Raj. And if you don't see a world where you're not the star, then you have to do that, because I mean that kind of personality probably won't function very well as an anchor.
Yeah.
Um, and if you are like a guy who is, like an LXCB or a Kerrigan or something like this, a guy who thinks super deeply about the game and, likes to, think a lot about tactics and is like also, I guess, an IGL also needs to be a like workhorse in a way. Like they typically have a bigger workload than any other player on the team. So you have to be hardworking as well as a good attribute, and you have to be like a good leader and stuff like this. If you have those kind of attributes, then it's that's also absolutely a good fit. And if you are like a super calm personality, I hate to kind of use that as a buzzword here, but like if you are not if you're not a type who has to be like a fucking alpha male, loudest guy in the room and that kind of thing, if you just
Mhm.
happy to be a part of the party basically, then like being an anchor makes way more sense because you don't need the spotlight. You don't want to be the guy maybe with the biggest social media profile. You don't want to be the guy doing all the interviews. You don't want to be all this and that. And then playing an anchor position probably fits you better. So it really depends on what do you first of all find fun, and also what do you think fits your playstyle, what thing fits your personality. Because I mean, someone like Blimef, for example, he's a star player who could never not be a star player, and I know him quite well, I would say, and he is also always the loudest guy in the room, and he is like the guy that when we are out eating steak at a restaurant and someone has an undercooked steak, he's the one taking it and saying to the waiter, bro, the steak is undercooked, you need to give it more time, blah blah blah,
Oh,
and
of
stuff like
course.
that.
He's playing F. Look at him. Like
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
10 bigger than my head. Like
Yes, but that's what I mean. Like when you look at someone like BlameF, you just look at him and you think like, okay, this guy he's a fucking yeah, he's a fucking machine. So yeah, I think worry less about being flexible about changing roles and instead like make a decision for yourself about what do you want to do in those roles, basically. Like what do you enjoy doing and what would be a good fit for you to do, basically.
I see.
Any more questions, guys? While you guys are thinking, by the way, and also while I'm answering questions, I will try to just run around and throw some utility, so that
Yeah.
like
that's
if there's dead air, then
Yeah, I'm thinking because sometimes I have bad plays and don't think a lot. How do you do? How do you fix them?
so how you fix mistakes, basically.
Yeah, I'm doing weird peaks or I don't think, and then yeah, it goes bad. Sometimes.
I think like what you need to kind of understand when you do bad mistakes is you need to first understand why it happened. Well, I've talked about this kind of extensively in these Gosu sessions, but there's this thing called a growth mindset, and basically what it is you know, having a mindset. So how would you even describe a mindset? Like a mental plan almost for how you want to approach things. And like people with a growth mindset are typically the people who get good at things very quickly, because a growth mindset is the idea that when something goes wrong, you think about it and you think about how you could have done it better, basically. So like when I was young and I was, you know, rapidly gaining ground on the pro scene, and then I became pro, I had it literally every single day. Every single time I would die or I would lose a clutch and I would have to save or whatever, I would immediately replay the round in my head and I would be like, I should have done this, or I should have flashed a little bit different, or I should have done this and that and stuff like this. But before you can dive into, you know, what could I have done better, you also have to first think about what kind of forced that error out of you. So, for example, I'm making stupid examples on purpose here, but if you were heavily drinking or doing drugs, then you cannot expect yourself to play well. If you stayed up 30 hours without sleep, you cannot expect yourself to play well. So obviously these are things I would hope that none of you guys struggle with, but these are examples of things that could negatively impact your performance, right? But it could be something like stress or pressure, like the fact that you are not calm enough. So maybe that's, if you made an error, maybe it had less to do with the mistake you made, but more what caused the mistake to happen, basically. And what I see as the number one thing in my coaching sessions, because I also do individual coaching sessions sometimes, is majority of the time, if people are making many stupid mistakes, like peeking without thinking and stuff like this, it is because they are sort of mentally exhausted to the point of burnout. And the best way you can find out, in my opinion, if you are burned out, well, one of them is, I mean, if I watch a demo, I can tell you within 5 minutes. But the other is, if you play a match, let's say there's 20 rounds, whatever. I want you to watch the match back right after you played it, and I want you to write down every death you have. Was it because of aim, or was it because of brain? And Aim would be something like, obviously, if you're holding an angle, whatever, and someone comes out and you just straight up miss. If after these 20 rounds you've watched them through and you've decided like 80% of the rounds you lost because of aim, then you need more time on deathmatch or more time on aim labs or whatever. But majority of the time, if you're doing stupid mistakes and in general you're not playing well, it's because of something like brain-wise. It's that, but when I peeked this corner, I was not ready for him, so I swung out wide and then he killed me before I even got to shoot, or these kind of things. Another one of the absolute best things to check if you are burned out is, as you are doing this, count how many kills you get while moving, basically, or right after moving. So how many kills do you get while peeking? So if I kill 20 people in a match in 20 rounds, and all my kills come from me peeking them in some kind of an angle, then it's probably a pretty good indicator that you are mentally exhausted and that you need to take a break of 1 to 2 days where you don't touch the game at all. Don't play any other shooting games. Because when I'm burned out, it's like my brain constantly needs action.
Dopamine.
Yeah, also dopamine, but it's like I can't hold angles when I'm tired or when my brain is exhausted. It's like something has to happen every 5 seconds or I'm gonna go crazy. And I have it sometimes also when I'm mentally exhausted, even when I'm not playing Counter-Strike. It's like I can't be bored for 5 seconds without pulling out my phone and randomly scrolling something. And so if you count the amount of times, like how many times did you get a kill from peeking and how many kills did you get from holding an angle? Like if I take over long, whatever, and I am holding an angle, someone peeks me and I kill them. This is a kill where I'm holding, that's pretty obvious. But the reason why it is worth using this formula to figure out if you are mentally exhausted or not is because when you are mentally exhausted, you don't really think that far ahead. And so holding angles is almost impossible. For you to hold angles in any situation, there needs to be some element of you expecting an opponent to do a certain thing. And if you're mentally exhausted, it's very likely that your brain won't even be able to think about what happens in the future. You're only thinking about the now. So I would wager if you're making a lot of stupid mistakes and where as soon as you die, you're sitting there thinking like, why did I do this? It's probably because you are mentally exhausted. And so I don't remember exactly your name and I don't have Discord open right now, but how many hours do you play Counter-Strike per day?
I think 10 hours or something.
Yes, there we go. You are mentally exhausted, my friend. Take a break. This is
Yeah.
always the answer. Always 10 or 12 hours per day. Best advice, if you have friends, whatever, go spend time with them. Or if you have family or a girlfriend or something like this, just take the best advice I can give. Take 2 full days where you don't think about Counter-Strike, you don't touch Counter-Strike at all or any other shooting games. If you have something like, I don't know, World of Warcraft or Rocket League or Trackmania, or I play RuneScape a lot to relax, these games are okay, but don't play something that is even close, like Overwatch, Valorant. Don't play these kind of games, Call of Duty.
An FPS game, no?
Yeah, exactly. Any FPS game, just stay away from it. And I promise you, when you take a break for 2 days, and you come back after those 2 days, you are like twice as good as you were before you took the break. And it will be like you can now all of a sudden understand things in Counter-Strike again.
Huh. Okay.
I want you to do this, and I want you to write me after if it worked or not, because I have told this to probably 30 different people that I've coached, and I have never once had a message after that was not positive.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go on vacation tomorrow. But
Oh,
that's-
perfect. I
and
promise
my-
you, even though you come home from vacation and you haven't touched the mouse for a while, you're gonna be better when you come home.
Yeah.
What you need is a break.
Yeah, it's because I've vacation for 4 weeks, and then normally I'm working and things, and now I have nothing to do, and I'm
Yeah,
playing CS because I want to be good and
yeah,
maybe go pro later.
yeah. No, but I respect it. And a lot of these players, me included, came up. There was a time where I was living with an ex-girlfriend of mine, and I was playing, basically playing FPL Challenger, I think, every day from like 10 to 16. And then my ex would come home from work, not from work, sorry, from school, like university. And then I would have team practice from like 17 until 22 or something like this. Something ridiculous. I was playing like 10 hours every single day. And, that can be really good as long as you do it in short bursts. Uh, I don't think there are many people in the world of Counter Strike who can keep up having like more than 110 hours past 2 weeks consistently and still perform. That is very rare. And the way that I do this, because mental exhaustion is an extremely big topic for me, especially because I've been burned out from playing Counter Strike, even though I fucking love this game. The way you want to do it is if you have a big tournament, or if you have a LAN coming up, or if you whatever, you want to play extra and have these like 110 hours past 2 weeks, probably 1 week or 2 weeks leading up to the event. And then after the event, where you've hopefully hit your peak in performance, you want to let the hours slowly drop off and relax a little bit and regain energy and recharge your batteries. And then as the next event is approaching, you want to be like pushing your hours up again. And you do this where it's like, instead of it being very consistent and balanced, you basically force your individual level up to your peak when the big tournaments are there, and at the times when the smaller tournaments are there, you give yourself a chance to relax a little bit so that you don't burn out in the long run. That's, yeah, a really, 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 really big thing, in my
Yeah, I
opinion.
have now 144 hours
Yes,
in 2
I
weeks.
yes, but like
Only yes.
yes. And isn't it funny that even though your question had nothing to do with mental exhaustion or burnout, I knew that it was about that.
Yeah.
Like, that tells you, I think, enough. Like, because I've had this with myself so many times. It's probably the number one thing I see in my individual coaching. And typically, when I see this, I recognize it within the first 5-10 minutes of watching a demo. And the rest of the time, I normally do 1.5 hours. It's almost like fully wasted because that demo can just almost be thrown in the trash. When you are that mentally exhausted, like you must be if you have been running like 144 hours past 2 weeks for a while, you're not yourself. Like, it's even funny if you have a match that you played now, you're gonna go on vacation, and the first thing you could do when you come back from vacation is just watch the demo of the last match you played, and you will sit there and question like, holy shit, what was I on here? I promise you.
The only thing is now I have 8 win streak to face it, but
Yeah,
some games are good and some games are very bad for me. But
yes.
still my team carries, but then
I want to bet you one more thing as well, by the way, because I want to prove you even more that I know that this is your problem and also how much I've dealt with this. I want to bet that if you go through the last 10 matches you've played on Faceit, you will have the most deaths in more than 8. Like, in 8 or more, I mean. Like, I want to bet that in every match, if you play good, you might have like 28 kills, but you will still have like 21 deaths. And if you're having a bad match, you have something like 5 to 8 kills, whatever, and you have like 23 deaths or something if it's a close match. Like, that's typically how it goes when you are mentally exhausted, at least in my opinion.
yeah.
Yeah, I think
I think it's true
suffer
because I'm
something
now
like that.
watching 6 games of me, and one is 9, and most of the time it's 12 deaths.
Yep.
And 14, yeah, it's above 8 all the time.
Yeah, it's like even in like yeah, even in close matches and stuff like that, or matches where you're playing well, you will just die a lot if you're mentally exhausted. Because you're just doing stupid shit and running around all the time, and yeah, that's yes. So that's
Yeah,
just
I
go on
think I
vacation.
suffered that as well. I just
Okay.
realized now.
Yeah. Like most likely, I think so many people do this and they don't understand it. And the thing is, there are benefits to it as well, because it's not all bad. When you play that much, your individual skill level will be extremely high. And when you look at someone like Donk or Monesi or something like this, these are the players who have been putting in these absurd amount of hours for like a long period of time. And that's why they, at such a young age, build up crazy individual skill. But for most people, it's very difficult to develop your game outside of your mechanics when you play that much. And someone like Blamef, again, I've mentioned him a lot, but like he can literally work 140 hours past 2 weeks consistently for his whole life, and it won't bother him. But I do believe that some of these players as well are like when I don't play Counter Strike, my mind is almost always thinking about Counter Strike. And I believe players like BlameF and maybe also Donk and stuff like that, as soon as they are not playing Counter Strike, their brain doesn't think Counter Strike anymore. Like they get to relax. But I overthink a lot, and so
Yeah, me too.
yeah,
All the time I'm thinking, or tomorrow I need to win so
yes,
many games or something.
yes. And you lose a match and you're sitting and thinking about that one round, like, oh, I should have done this, and I
Yeah,
should.
that is the fault of some. I watch videos and now every time I have a game, I do break of a half hour or something, or 10, 20 minutes.
Oh,
And if
that's
I'm
really good.
dying, and someone is arguing at me or something,
Yeah.
I'm going away from my computer, drink
Oh, that's
something, or
amazing. That's amazing. Really good. Keep
I
doing that.
learned from the videos much,
Yeah.
and your aim video too, because with the micro thing, if I'm not good at micro adjustments,
Yeah.
and
You're like
I
me.
was playing this lower sense, but I was going up because someone said to me, "It is better," but and things.
Yeah.
And now I'm back, and now I'm aiming better and doing things better because I'm now playing lower sense again.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. I'm happy that I'm able to help you. Um. All right, guys. Anyone got another question? I need to show you a crazy smoke I found, but it's extremely difficult to throw, so I don't know if I can throw it, but I'm gonna try. It's pretty damn difficult. It basically lands like this. Wait. But
That's
it's
a
very
nice.
difficult.
Oh,
Yeah, it's extremely difficult to throw it. Like,
I do have a question, but it's like
yeah.
a short answer. Um, how can you learn map faster? Like, Anubis that connector was no, like it was called connector, like the from where you're going from water to site, but now it's called cave or otherwise, and cave is called connector, and I'm kind of
Mhm.
um confused on what to call out, or like where can I find all the calls on a map?
Um, that is a pretty tough question to answer because, some people have made pictures in the past, but really, it's also kind of regional. Like in Denmark, for example. Let me see if we. Yeah. Uh, hmm. I have something like semi-offensive that I think we called it here in Denmark. Kind of, I don't know if I should say it, but basically just no one take offense. I don't know. I didn't make this call out, but I think people call this corner Hitler in Danish Counter-Strike. Don't ask me why. And there are a few spots like in Danish Counter-Strike, which is, for example, this was called boiler in CSGO, but in Danish it was called kost, which means broom, basically. So like callouts can be kind of regional, and even regional in a sense that what we in Europe use in English is not necessarily what they use in America in English. Like there was a long time here where some people call this coils in CSGO and some people called it coffins. And it was because back in like Source and I think also the really early Inferno, there was like a big coil here, but it was changed to coffins. And now it's something different. But I would still call this coils. Wait, actually, I feel like my brain just broke. I think I called this coils, right? And also there was a time where there was a grill here, so people call it grill. But like, yeah, people call it all sorts of different things. So I think the best thing you can do is either you can try to see if there are pictures on the internet that shows you all the names of spots, but otherwise I would say just try to pick up as much as you can with playing the game, because I mean this is banana, that's pretty obvious, but even these, like this corner and this corner and this corner, probably have different names in different languages and different regions. And also when you start playing in a team, typically one of the absolute first things you do is you, like, I've done this even with my team recently. We are flying around the whole map and we agree on, like, okay, what is this corner called? What is this called? What is this called? And you go through every spot and you agree on a name. And sometimes everyone has the same name and sometimes people have different names for it. But yeah, it's
I see.
yeah.
Maybe I should try to watch voice comms from teams.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Otherwise, even you can maybe watch like a top player stream or something and see
Oh yeah,
where they're
yeah,
looking. And
that's good. Yeah.
because this year is like in European Counter-Strike, I would say it's called Small Pit or Mini Pit, maybe. But in America, I believe they call it Moto. So, yeah.
I
It's,
mean, some of the people call that motto in Europe as well.
yeah,
I mean, I heard it before and I know that.
I think also this in Europe we call it Vietnam, but
I
in
didn't hear
America
that.
they call it Mexico.
I call it
Yeah,
Mexico.
Mexico, yeah.
Yeah,
Or I heard that one called like rat.
Yeah, rat as
yeah.
well.
I think in Danish we call it mulvarp as well, which is like a mole. So yeah, there are many different callouts. So yeah, it's even when, like, it's a problem even for top professional players when play FPL and stuff like that with each other. People can have wildly different callouts and be confused about what people are talking about. Because maybe a Russian callout for this and that is different. So yeah. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. It's actually not so easy, but someone should really make a picture with all the callouts written down, and then people should go from that. That would be amazing. And
Yeah.
that someone could be me, but I'm not sure if I'll do it.
Like you see, like the spot you stayed before you throw that molly. I call it Stewie.
This
Like
year?
Stewie.
Yeah, I get it. Because of
And
the
there are
highlights.
some names like on cache as well, like that community made map, I think.
Yeah,
There are some spots that called like MBK or Shroud because of the players that
Yeah.
like got famous about it.
yeah, that's very, very common that a player like wins the spot by having being one
Or
of the first to
like
have a big
all
pilot
of
in there.
all of like what it's called, the diffuse.
Yeah, yeah,
Or you got ropes on Mirage.
yeah, yep. Yeah, or you got Brokey on Ancient, or you got so many. There's so many
Oh,
spots.
like really, where is Brokey on Ancient? I would
I can show you real quick. I think we have time for one more very quick question. If someone has like a question that isn't like super deep, then we've got time for that while I show what Brokey is. Anyone got a final question? It's just Brokey.
I'm thinking, but I'm not sure.
I think someone has a question in the chat or messages. Wait.
Let me see.
Oh,
Oh yeah, what would you do?
Actually,
Oh.
Shifter just wrote to me and he has a question, but his
Oh.
mic is not working, so I
Oh.
asked that question for
Yeah.
him. So he asked, what would you do if you lose confidence in game, like in the place you do aim, calling,
Yeah.
so on.
Yeah. I see it. So what I would do, and I will answer this pretty briefly, but I will still give it, I think, a good answer. And this is one of the best things I've learned in Counter-Strike is try to always maximize what you are able to do on the server. There are different ways to find impact. So like if you are having a day where you feel like your shots are just not landing, maybe you up your communication and you, instead of focusing so much on trying to be the best aimer on the server, you try to be the guy who's communicating the best. Maybe you can start calling setups for your teammates. Maybe you can, if whatever you're feeling unconfident when you're going out of cave, maybe you say to your teammate, okay, I'm gonna run out, be ready to trade, and then you just run out wide and you trust your teammate who's maybe having a better game to just go and smash everyone, this kind of things is what I would do if I would like lose confidence, or if you're having a day where it just feels like nothing is working. When one parameter of the game goes down, so if your aim, for example, is only at 50% of what it normally is, you have to raise something else to make up for it. So even if your communication is like at a 100%, this is my normal level, you gotta pick it up and put it to an even higher level than normal to like make up for what your team and your teammates are losing by not having you there with your firepower, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that was good as an answer. I gotta wake up tomorrow in 7 hours, pretty much. I guess a little bit less than 8, but in not so long. So I'm gonna end the session here. But I hope you got some of your questions answered, and I hope it was enjoyable for you guys to take part in.
yeah, you
Yeah.